boy. Hey guys, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to start on the BMW 335i. We're going to pull the plastic underneath it and get ready to start on the front mount intercooler, the catless downpipes, and we need to find out where our water leak is before we get into all that. But hang out, here we go. Alright, so if you hadn't had a lot of experience with the BMW 335i or XI or Xdrive, they have this humongous plastic covering underneath it. So the first step once you start getting under this car to start doing anything is you've got to find out what size all this is. You got to take all this loose. There's a pile of them, so let me figure that out. We'll start taking this plastic off. Alright, so I grabbed a 5/16 and I got it on my impact, and this seems to be what fits it. And there's quite a few of them, so if you got any kind of air tools, you definitely, or electric impacts, you definitely want to use them, because it'll take you a minute to do it if you don't. Should be the last one there, I think. Doesn't feel like it. Yeah, there's one there. Alright, let's see if that's it. Oh, there's one there. Yeah, so there was quite a few of them things in there. And so that one piece of plastic, and there's two of these little deals that make the connection from that plastic to the sides. There's one on each side that come down. So I think I was missing a couple in these, but I take a count of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 22 of these screws. Now I don't know that they were all necessary. Like the side pieces, I think there might have been one that I didn't have to take, but either way. Alright, let's see what the next step we got to do. Alright, I don't know that it's necessary, but I'm going to go ahead and take off this next piece of plastic back here, and then we're going to end up taking this skid pan off. But I want to get all the room I can, because I'm not just going to be looking for a leak. I have a lot more going on with this stuff. We will be doing some installs, and when we get all the room we can get. And there's one oddball one right there. It's bigger than the 5/16, so let me find what size that is. We'll find out what size these are, and we'll get those off. Alright, so the one left on this cover here is a 10. So that exposes the transmission. So that second cover back, if you're doing anything with the transmission, that cover is definitely a must. So that gives you your drive shaft for the front, all the visual stuff you need on the transmission. And this one ends up being a 5/8 is what I grabbed, and it fits it. So we'll get them broke loose here with the regular ratchet. Alright, so we'll take this jewel, run them out of there. so now what we gotta do is let the car down, crank it up. We gotta make sure we open the doors. Crank it up, let it build up some coolant pressure, and hopefully we can get it to start leaking and kind of find where our leak is, because at this point I don't have a clue where my leak actually is in the car. So that's the reason I took all that off before I do anything else. I have to find my leak and try to put my hands on it so I know what I'm actually going to replace or having to fix before I do any upgrades or anything. I have to fix the car. So, all right, that's the next step. All right, well, the good news is I found the water leak. There's where she's dripping. But on the car, best I can tell, is above us, above that spot right there, I can see the bottom of the reservoir where you fill the coolant in. Well, where it attaches the coupling that hooks to the reservoir, it's leaking somewhere right in there. I can't tell if it's the reservoir or that hose, but it's not the water pump. It's not on the car side, the motor side. It's on the overflow and the reservoir and all that side. So worst case, we replace one of the hoses or replace the reservoir and we'll be good. So I'm a little nervous, but nothing major, I don't believe. All right, we're gonna let it cool off and dive into it. All right, so while I'm letting the coolant cool down on the BMW, I'm gonna go ahead and start disassembling the front mount intercooler. These little tabs, they come down. They actually live over here on the fan, like that. So you pull this down, pull this little tab, and they'll swing around. There's two on the front of that, and then there's gonna be, I think this is similar to them, on the bottom of the actual intercooler itself. I've already pulled the clips out. Well, one of them, I've got one on this side, but I pulled the clip out, and once we get the clips out, and there's a bolt on each side, and it's like a T30 maybe, or something. So then you take those loose and your intercooler should be pretty much loose. All right, so on the bottom of the intercooler, there was these two little spinning top tabs you can see here. Actually, we're locked in like here. And so I had to pop it out and spin both of them. I did that on both sides of this. And then there was the spin ones that were on here that I showed you, and then there was one on each side of just the little screws, both sides. There was one on each side. I think it's, let's see what size it is. I used a T20, but I think it's actually a T25, but the 20 worked. So now you can see the factory intercooler. That's what we took out, and it had a clip on both sides. So I actually, once I took that, there's a plastic piece here that had the little spinning pieces on it. So I rolled it down and it just come off, and when it come off, it let go of the cooler. So the passenger side come down first, and I had to walk it this way and like pull this side after the fact, because this one on this side actually has a rubber boot that you can push back more so, and this one's a hard plastic and it don't have as much travel in it. So this side was easier to get off. The passenger side was easier for me to get off, and it's super simple. Like, it took all of 5 minutes. So it's a lot easier than what you think. Don't make it into, you know, real hard to do, because it's super easy to get it off. So we'll see how it goes back on though. All right, so I want to do a side-by-side comparison of the two intercoolers. Now, there's the factory one, and here's the aftermarket with the additional piece up top. So it's pretty much the same overall size with the added piece, but it seems to be, yeah, it's about the same thickness as well. Maybe a little more towards the end tanks, maybe a little longer, just a hair out this way, but seems to be pretty much the same as far as the main piece. It just has the additional piece on the outside edge here, so you can see pretty close. But again, the aluminum definitely makes a difference. The plastic end tanks go away, so you don't have to worry about them cracking. And with the additional volume, you're gaining, you know, a little more area for your air to cool. So what I'll do now is I'll put my clips on my new cooler and get it ready to start installing, and then start trying to see how everything fits and try to mock it up or install it. Depends on how easy it goes. So here we go. Well, I debated on going ahead and putting my clips in. I think I'm going to wait till last, because in case I have to swivel it and it locks, and if I can't swivel it, then I'll be in trouble. But so it's definitely going to be thicker front to back, and then we get our fan out of the way maybe. We ran into our first issue. So what the problem is, these ends that hook to our intercooler, the actual charge pipes, wherever, let's see, right here, both sides. See how this one's rubber? Got a little movement, but all right. So mine measure, the actual end pieces measure 2 3/4 on both sides. All right, the one I got, it measured, what did I see, 2 3/4 on one side and like 2 3/8 or something on the other side. So there's no way it'll work. It won't lock in. There's no way of getting it to fit. So I filed for a return on this one, and I didn't know. I mean, it says it fits my application, and I've typed in my car and make, model, and body style and everything, and doesn't fit. So I emailed them, filed for a return on it. We'll see what goes on there. But that's a setback, but it is what it is, because I still have to order the parts to fix the water leak. So hopefully in the meantime we can get one rounded up and get another intercooler in here. If nothing else, we'll just put this one on until we get one to change it out. But I had to fix the water leak, so there's no issues on that part, but I had to fix that. So I've got to get that apart, see what we need, get it ordered, and just go from there. All right, let's see what we're doing here. Well, one bonus of having the intercooler out, we can reach the radiator to get the radiator started draining here, which I got to find whatever, there's a socket or a, it's got an option of a Phillips or an actual, maybe a socket. And we'll see what size that is, but that will allow us to save some of the coolant, possibly. It's definitely bigger than that. Let me find the socket and we'll get the draining on the coolant. So what's up here is, it's a, let me describe it. It's green like a nut, and you have to hold the nut with, you can actually, I held it with my hand, and stick the screwdriver up in and turn the center piece. So the nut is like just a hold back piece to allow the center to be unscrewed to let it drain your coolant. So the nut doesn't actually turn. Well, it will, but you don't want it to. And there comes your coolant. So, and coolant, as far as the BMWs, you run the non-corrosive, like the blue coolant. You don't run just your standard antifreeze and that type of stuff. So you do actually run a particular coolant, and distilled water, I think it is. Not just you don't put regular just water in it. I don't know the purpose of it 100% reason why, but that's what I've experienced so far. see it's blue. I don't know how much is in there, but I've only got a gallon jug. It's missing my bucket. Good Lord. Yeah, I need a 55-gallon drum. What the heck? Yeah, I'm going to try to put this back in so I can get a steady grip. See how that goes. Woo! Woo! And it went in the bucket. Alright, this is turning into a comedy now. Yeah, so future reference, you want to leave the plug in and just let it drain slowly. Yeah, I've made a mess. Alright, so while that's draining, we're going to go ahead and start on our exhaust. I've already sprayed it with PB Blast, so now it'll just be unbolting. And this is the bottom of our downpipes because they actually are way back this way. So these aren't impossible to get to, just a little difficult, and not sure if it's a 12 on both sides or not. Don't think it is. I think it's a 14 on the other side, so we'll find the 14 real quick. Alright, so it ended up being a 1/2 inch. It's 13, equivalent to 13 1/2 inches, usually about the same. So keep that in mind. Is 12 on one side and 1/2 inch on the other, 13. And I put PB Blast on it and let it set for a little bit, so that's definitely the reason it come off so easy, because these are fairly rusted. And a lot of your exhaust bolts will break, so you try to replace the hardware if you can. There we go. And you do want to try to get new gaskets too, especially if it's just a replacement. And what some people will do is put a little RTV along with the gasket. And I'm thinking, by the looks of it, this thing had an exhaust leak. See how it's black on one side of that gasket? How right there, it's got black. Yeah, I think it had an exhaust leak too. They did feel kind of loose when I first started trying to take them loose. I did feel like they were not as tight as what they should have been. I gotta get an extension for that. I hate that our intercooler didn't fit, so that's a setback. And this is one of those where it's gonna be a pain. I just wonder, I may be able to take this one out before the other one, and if I can, that'll definitely open that up to be able to take it loose. Alright, so I've got the leak figured out. There's a pipe that goes all the way up to the bottom of the expansion tank or the overflow, and then it couples on to the water pump and then comes all the way down the subframe and goes back onto this side to, I think it's to the heater core. So I got to drop the subframe anyway. There's one bolt that I can't get to unless I drop the subframe, and I have to drop it some anyway to get the what do we call it, the cats off of it. And so I'm just going to kind of do it simultaneously. Just go ahead and try to drop the cross member or the subframe, drop it, and once I get to that one bolt and that clip, I can take this completely off, and I go ahead and change the downpipes and pull this off and kind of leave it in that position. And when my new hose comes in, then I can change this piece, so that way I don't have to drop it twice. So, but I'm gonna have to drop it for the cats anyway. So, all right, so the next step we do, I've got my two jack stands. I've got one under the engine itself, because you'll turn the engine motor mounts loose from the subframe. You'll let the subframe down to a certain point, just about the end of your threads on the front, and the middle ones and the back ones you'll take completely out and kind of pull the subframe. Will come down far enough to manipulate the cats out of the back of it. So let's go ahead and get make sure I got the EU bits or whatever for the motor mounts, turn those loose, and then we'll start taking the subframe bolts loose. So, all right, here we go. All right, so we got the subframe, got it cut loose here. Let me get you maybe back this way. So all the subframe is dropped down. You can see there how much play you got. So that turns everything loose from there, and then that gives you a ton more room in here to work. So all right, let me see what I can come up with now. All right, so I end up having to drop the back section of this. I've seen videos where guys are like, oh, you don't have to do that. Well, I had to, you know, it made it easier for me. Well, I've got the first one out. The second one is the only one left. So everything I let down had to happen, because there's, you know, I don't know if it's any different with the two-wheel drive versus the all-wheel drive. I've not took one of those out, but this is a pretty difficult job. I'm gonna go ahead and say you better plan on your car being down for a little while, because this is a pretty serious task. And honestly, if it's the Xdrive, I think it's going to be more difficult because of the axles in the way, and there's several other factors, you know, with that. But I just believe if I didn't have everything I need here, the jack stands and everything else that I've got, I wouldn't have wanted to have done this job myself. Just, you know, if you were going to do it on the ground, you might want to think about it, or at least ask around, see what somebody's going to charge, and make them hold them to that, because this is a pretty lengthy, in-depth job, and you got to make sure you've got all the tools, because the E sockets, I end up not having one for the hanger up here. I don't know if I will need it, but I managed to pry it off. But I've got quite a few, you know, different styles of sockets and specialty tools and stuff, and I didn't have that socket at all. So, and make sure you turn the O2 sensors loose up top. Just not saying I did leave one hooked up. I had to try to turn it loose while it was still on the downpipe net loose, but I may or may not have done that. So either way, we're on to the second one. Well, we end up having a V-band have an issue where, I guess where it's rusted up and they're trying to hang up or whatever. So the head broke off of it, and so I've been fighting it. So I've got to pry it out and all that. Well, I got it off. So now I just got to work the second one out and then go back with everything. I'll be good, but it's getting kind of late, so I'm gonna call it a day on today and go ahead and get the water lines ordered. And I guess I'll go ahead and take the intercooler back and get it packed up, because I can't use it. It's not going to fit. So that's the video for today. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Appreciate everything. Like I say, we got everything down to just getting that last section out, and that's about where we're at, and that ain't no big deal. I should be able to knock it out in just a minute or two. Was it a successful day? Yeah. I feel like I should have at least got those out and the new ones in. But again, I was fooling with the water. Got that remedied. Not remedied, but I ended up pulling all the water lines down and getting everything that goes across the front above the frame. And sat down for a few minutes from EC, I think ECS Tuning. I've ordered a few things and they have one of those in stock. It's like 80 bucks. And I debated on going ahead and getting the expansion tank, the overflow tank, whatever you want to call it. I may go ahead and do that. I'm gonna sit down tonight and try to get me a game plan. I might as well go ahead and change it all while I'm here, but it is gonna be a pain when it gets on this side. It goes up and goes to a charge, under the charge pipe and all that. I may end up pulling all that stuff out so I can see it and get to that part, but it's one of those where I'm this close. I may just go ahead and do all that, and if there's anything else I need, I may go ahead and do it while I'm here. So, because I don't want it leaking anymore, and if I just change the expansion tank and it ends up being the hose side, I still have to replace it. But the expansion tank, the sensor's bad in it. I think it's actually broke on the inside, the level. So I need that anyway. It's only like $68 with everything, the new cap and everything. So I may do that, and $85 to get the other piece. And we'll just go ahead and do it all and be done with that. So, yeah, we're kind of bound up until we can get the other stuff. And I may not be back tomorrow to finish the install on those. It depends on where I end up at the rentals or something, but I may end up, so we'll see. All right, thanks guys, appreciate you watching the videos.